Today's video, we're going to be taking a look at an all-new Eachine kit. Now, this is called the Novice-III, and it's aimed for beginners or someone just starting out into the hobby. And what they aim to do is to give you everything you need in order to get up in the air for as cheap as possible. And I might say this is by far one of their best kits they've ever released, which is definitely usable. Down from the goggles to the controller to the charger to even the batteries, are giving you proper batteries here. So what are we covering today? I'm going to be showing you a couple things you need to do in beta flight in order to have it a bit better, but you can still fly right out of the box, but some modifications I think are best done, which I'll be showing you in this video. We're also going to take a closer look at the controller, the charger, the quad. We're going to discuss how its overall flight characteristics are and also where are its weak points, and also the goggle itself here. So as you can immediately see that they give you a proper carrying case where everything is cut out very nicely and everything just fits in really beautiful. This is the area where the power cable for the charger will be. However, I have it removed. I wasn't really using that. So you get two flavors here. You get one with I think 6 batteries and one with 2 batteries. Check the links down below to know which one's which. I got the one with 2 batteries. However, when you get the one with 2 batteries, you will have to use one of the batteries that you get into your controller because it just takes 3S batteries back here. You're going to need one that's going to fit back here basically. So I just stuck one of my other ones in there. Now in terms of the controller, I have reviewed this a while ago, but this thing had multi-protocol module inside. I'm planning on doing a separate video on this when we tear this one down and also find the other one which is in storage right now. And we actually compare the internals and see if there are any differences, which I think is going to be very useful for a lot of people, because if there's a way to update this and have multi-protocol module, this by far is an amazing piece of technology here. But if not, then it's still pretty good. You still get D8, D16. And this controller actually offers a bit more than a QX7, a brand new 2020 QX7 with all these new features or hardware features. So that's pretty cool into that perspective. We're going to come back to the control later. The grip is really nice. You could really have a good hold on it. If you're a thumber, I think you'll be pretty good because it's a very light controller. It's not heavy at all. It doesn't feel bulky. I don't have the biggest hands and it just still feels really nice in the hands. And in my opinion, this is by far one of the most innovative, thoughtful thing Eachine has thought in order to bring controllers in. And those older controllers, those plastic ones, will really hinder your performance. However, in this case, it's actually really nice. However, I do wish these were a little bit stiffer. They're not super loose, but I usually like to have them tightened. I like ones with adjustable gimbals. But I still had no problems flying this at all. I really enjoyed using this. It was really great. No problems. You know, good range, decent range. I can't really speak about range because I didn't fly that far. But overall, it's a good controller. So this is something very proper out of the box, and I'm really happy to see here. Now, if we move down to the battery charger, it's really basic. You're not going to have any settings, which is kind of good for a beginner. It's really nice. You just plug the JST type here, and it'll automatically know where to charge and how to charge it. However, this way takes much longer, because you are limited in the amperage that you are charging, so keep that in mind. But overall, this will get you going, but you can only charge one battery at a time, and you'll more likely just be sticking it in to the 3S port, which is the one that only fits, which is in the middle here. That's the one you're going to be charging in. Now, if we move down to the goggles, these goggles are good. They're not the best, but they're good. However, the only problems with all of these, even the best one of these, is the battery life is absolutely terrible. So you might have to carry a power bank with you, because what's really nice about these, they charge via 5 volts, and you just make sure you don't lose this USB to this type of barrel connector, because that's how you charge most of the time. Range is okay. Don't expect very large range. I didn't have any problems in my bando, which is really nice. But then again, I was within, I would say, less than 150 meters with a lot of interference. It did pretty good. Obviously, with the Fat Shark module and all these things, it'll do a lot better in a sky zone. But overall, this will get you flying in the park, and I recommend you fly it in the park because the motors are not that durable, and we're going to get into that in a bit. What's also really nice about this is later on, obviously, if you really like this hobby and you're going to upgrade, what you can do is pop this off, and now you have a screen, so you can just set this up on a tripod or give it to a friend, and he can watch you fly. So these are always very useful to have. Even some pros would buy these in order just to have, if they're going out somewhere, they're like, hey, take this, watch what I'm doing, and you can do all kinds of crazy cool stuff, sharing the experience, I guess, with somebody. So it's really nice into that perspective. This is way better. This is the best goggle they've given in these kits, which is also a huge addition, but I do expect another Novice-IV, which is going to be even better. So now let's get into the quadcopter itself. Now, the overall execution, and again, really pissed me off because I didn't notice it. Once I got into the field, I saw that my antennas were basically loose, just like this. And don't fly like that. Make sure you secure them. And I just did a half-assed job of securing them because my hands were frozen at the time, because it was like -5, I think, that day when I was flying. So yeah, just figure out a way to secure your VTX antenna, which is going to be in here, and also your receiver's antenna, because if you break these, you're going to lose a lot of range, and that's something you don't want, because you don't want to be flying over a building, bam, you lose range, damn, it's right on top of the building, and now you just lost your quadcopter. So you kind of don't want to have these just hanging like that. You want to figure out a way to secure them. Usually with zip ties around the arms that stick out like that would be better, but again, I was very limited in the field at the time because I didn't notice this. Now, they're actually not using toothpick components or crazy bee board type components here, or whoop sized boards. They're actually using a proper 20x20 with an adapter that's going to go into the video transmitter itself. You know, this is a pretty strange, you know, all-in-one ESC. I don't think I've ever seen this. It's crazy. It's a flight controller and an ESC and a 20x20 board. And it's actually, it withstands quite a lot, and it even has the receiver built in. I think we're going to have to do another teardown another day to check this out, but this looks like a really good board, like really nicely well made. This is pretty interesting stuff here. So now let's take a look at the motors. Now, Happy Model and Eachine basically are kind of doing the same motor, especially these tiny motors here. They're not the most durable. Keep that in mind. Very important here. And I already broke mine, or I have dust in. I think I just had dust in mine. Oh, it spins now. That's crazy. Well, I think no, it's bent. I have a bent shaft on this one now. So yeah, I crashed into metal because I was flying in the bend and building. Obviously, it's going to bend. They're not the strongest motors. You need to keep that in mind. But if you're flying in a park in grass, you're not going to have nothing to worry about here. Now, the motors are 5,500 kV and they are 1203 sized. It is very efficient. That's the only, you know, nice thing about these Happy Model and Eachine motors, is that they're so freaking efficient. You can fly for such a freaking long time, like at least 5 minutes. I mean, it was super drop dead cold, and I was still, you know, able to keep flying for quite a while, like 4 minutes and a half. So if the weather was even, you know, slightly better, I could have probably gotten 5 minutes out of this thing and like really enjoying it, not just like going super slow. So that's something you need to take note of here. So the motors are really efficient, but not that durable. They're not super weak, but they're not durable. If you get into a wrong crash, you're more likely going to bend the bill like I have here. However, what's really nice with this is that replacements are readily available and they are pretty cheap. But then again, you can also replace these with any motor you want, but you also will lose somewhat of efficiency. Something I would go on this, something that I would put on this quadcopter if I'm going to exchange the motors would be like the Flywoo 7650 kV motors. Those are 1103, pretty efficient, and gives you flexibilities between 2 and a 3S, which would be really great to keep the overall weight here down, and you can still get some good flight time. Now, the video transmitter is phenomenal. This is, I think, a new one. It has even a built-in DVR, which I haven't used because I was afraid I'm going to lose it because it was so cold that day. So I decided not to put an SD card in here. Now, for the video transmitter, it performed really great, which is really nice, especially in the bando that I fly in. Sometimes it could be really terrible with these little tiny ones, but it was absolutely phenomenal, and I'm pretty sure it'll do the job for just about anyone. Don't expect obviously super long range, but it is outputting some good amount of milliwatts. You're still getting some pretty decent range on this. Camera's okay, the Caddx EOS 2, I think. Overall pretty good. I was surprised that I was able to see everything with the fog and you know, everything being so white. And actually the wide dynamic range was pretty good because I didn't really have any black spots or anything. Everything was just very clear the whole time. And I really liked that. It also has a buzzer and some really nice LEDs once you plug this guy in, which I'll show you right now actually. It's really, really nice. And it really does help you find the quad. If the battery doesn't get ejected, which I also really, really like here. Now, in terms of performance of the quadcopter, power is there, efficiency is there, motor durability is not, frame is really great actually. This top part is not carbon fiber, it's actually a PCB, which is pretty interesting actually, because it's also a composite. And I really like this. This is very unique, I would say, and not only very unique, you could do, you know, it's very innovative too, because, you know, I could get that idea because I never really thought about that, and I could do some crazy stuff with these things. What's really nice is you could take one of your friends, for example, let's just say a frog light or something. You could design exactly that top plate and just fill that shit up with capacitors. Just for the fuck of it. You could do all kinds of crazy cool things, LEDs, whatever. So I really like that. But obviously the structural integrity of the top plate will be slightly less here. But again, I got into some pretty nasty crashes. It's still overall fine, just the bent shaft here. So for propellers, they're giving us proper props. They're giving us the HQ 3-inch props here because it's obviously a 3-inch quadcopter. And I think it fits it just perfect here. And again, I just wish the motors, if Eachine, Happy Model, you guys are listening, just slightly improve the durability of the motors from the shaft to just somewhat of the bell. Everything else is pretty fine, but if you guys can do that, that'll really make it a killer of a quadcopter. Not a lot of people are going to break the motors. like me. But if you are starting to fly towards, you know, concrete building and just not grassy area, you're more likely going to break it here. Now, for batteries, they're giving you some of the most expensive premium batteries, which is something I really like. And if you are thinking of picking this up, I highly recommend you get the ones with all the batteries, with the most batteries. I'll have it linked down below, I forgot which one, because these could be used on just about anything. And these are not HV, these are just normal lithium batteries. That is just, it's an overall well-balanced quadcopter with a lot of flight time and a lot of maneuverability, a lot of speed. The tune was pretty good. Now, in terms of me setting up and actually going to fly, all I really did was plug a battery in here. I plugged this into the Betaflight just to double check my settings because I didn't know which one was to arm, which one was to change the mode. And I kind of redone those just in Betaflight. I didn't touch anything inside this. I did everything through the quadcopter itself, which I'll show you right now. And yeah, that's the only thing I did, and I just went and started flying, and I really liked that feeling, especially for a newcomer. We rarely have any proper kits like this that's really cheap yet really good, and this is by far one of the best kits to get started in. I'm pretty sure if you know, I started with the Eachine Racer Star and the Eachine Falcon and Wizard back then. And this kit, if this kit was around back then, I would have definitely picked this up. And yeah, one thing, it's much cheaper when you break it. Two, it flies almost like a 5-inch. You just don't have the speed of a 5-inch, but you can still do everything with this that you can do with a 5-inch, even more actually, because you can hit even smaller gaps. So in terms of beginning, I personally say this is much better. It gives you more flight time. It's cheaper components if you break them. And basically, this is everything you need to get started. I mean, you can obviously do it with a better charger, but you can take that one step at a time once you get better and stuff. And what's really nice, everything here can still be used later on. It could be like a spare, you know, battery charger. You could just have laying around, so you can do like 4 or 5 batteries at one time if you get a 4 balanced charger or something like that. So it's really nice, guys. Like, I'm not bullshitting here. It is a overall really nice kit. The only thing that pisses me off are the durability of the motors. But other than that, it's an absolute beast. So now let's go ahead and jump into Betaflight and show you how I changed the settings for these. Because I think it's better the way I changed it, at least for myself. You could choose to copy it or not, because I really always like this one to arm. It's just, you know, it's just, that's it. It's in my brain. This is for my modes, and this one for like flip over after death, and maybe this one was the buzzer or something. We're gonna go ahead and double check it, but that just makes the most sense to me. And I always like this one to be arm and this one to be my mode. It's just on every controller, so this way I just don't forget, because I have so many quadcopters. So let's check out Betaflight. So once you have Betaflight open, the first thing you want to do is connect the USB and also turn on your controller here. So there we go, we got that turned on. And next we want to go ahead and go to connect. And first thing you want to change, you want to go to the configuration. So the first thing we want to modify in the configuration is this motor stop. Right now on default, it's turned on, which means that when you arm the quadcopter, the motors won't spin. So you really don't know if it's armed or not. So I highly recommend you go ahead and switch that off. And we have save and reboot right on the bottom left. So we go ahead and set that up. Let it save and reboot. Then connect. Sometimes it connects again by itself. Next thing we want to go to is the modes tab. And now here, this is how I've changed it. Arm is auxiliary 4, angle mode is auxiliary 3, and I'll show you what those mean or where they are on the controller. Beeper is auxiliary 1, and that's about all. That's all I put here. And as you can tell, you see how I've set it up just like this. Make sure you set up these orange things exactly identical. And the arm basically is going to be switch D. So if you flick that, as you can tell, it's actually arming. And we have switch C is going to be in the default position in angle mode, which is stabilized mode. And once you get out of it, that's going to switch it into acro mode, which is not stabilized mode, which is what the pros usually fly. And if we go down here, I have switch A, which is the one in the front on the right, to be the beeper once I put it in. This is really great, especially if you use it. And also once you set that up, don't forget to save and reboot. Now, another thing I forgot to point out also is you want to go back to the configuration tab. Go down here and make sure these are basically identical to mine. You have air mode on, OSD on. Everything should be on. I think air mode wasn't on, so make sure you turn that on. Very important you do that. So what air mode does is it overrides the motors. So if something or external force were to act upon the quadcopter, it'll say, let's just say you're flying on 20% throttle, it'll allow the motors to go above 20% throttle in order to keep its position in the air, the exact attitude of how it is. And that's why we turn on air mode, and it's very, very useful. So make sure you do that as well. And that's about it. You're going to have a blast and just enjoy the living crap out of it. And again, everything's linked down below. And you should come join my Patreon, where I do all this stuff. I give out out all these things. And I do like more than 10 giveaways and new Patreons. I think I got like 2 this month or 1. You guys have your own special separate giveaway for my new Patreon. So if I get 2, it's just going to be between those 2. For every $1 you put in, you get your name in the entry. And I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, guys.